So after hearing about today's announcement, the only thing that could come to mind really was I'm still not convinced there's going to be an 8.3. No, I'm just kidding. But how about that, man? Out of nowhere, where did this come from? I'm at work watching the Rays beat the Houston Astros. Hopefully, continuing to do that in the next few games. And all of a sudden, I'm looking. Ny'alotha. I'm looking at old pictures of old gods. People are talking about all kinds of crazy stuff, and I'm like, where did this come from? So we checked it out. If you haven't seen the video posted by World of Warcraft's channel, check it out. I haven't actually watched it yet. I've just read all about it. But I do want to give my initial opinions on a lot of this stuff and hopefully act as a catch-all for you guys to talk about the patch, because this is a pretty, this is crazy. I don't, maybe it's me, maybe it's been too long since there's been a huge announcement, but this feels like out of nowhere. This feels major. It feels really good. So I'm really happy. I'm not going to lie. I was like about 2 steps away from just walking out today when I saw this, but there would have been nowhere to go. So anyway, spoilers ahead. I haven't watched it yet. Don't spoil it, you knuckleheads. I heard about ny'alotha. People are spoiling it. Apparently there's dragons. Okay, anyway. So we're going to talk a little about the contents on the PTR. Also, if you guys want to see me do any of this content on the PTR, let me know. Usually we battle interest on PTR. I personally don't mind playing on the PTR, and I'll cover anything that seems relevant, but a lot of people they don't want to see me do random world content. So if anybody specifically wants to see anything or has any ideas for me to get on there, let me know, because apparently it's already good. You can go on right now, apparently. But anyway, the old god ny'alotha has risen from the depths to threaten Azeroth, working alongside Magni, Wrathion, which is awesome, and other luminaries. That's going to be me. Players will attempt to empower Azeroth with defenses originally built by the Titans. In return, the old gods attempt to corrupt the very minds of the player characters with Visions of ny'alotha, a new repeatable type of content where players explore a twisted reflection of a defeated future Azeroth. The major update includes a number of new features, changes to existing systems, and other improvements that you can join us in testing. Good joke. Nobody's going to test any of this stuff. Anyway, now available. So this is stuff that's already available. New world and questing content. So I don't know what that means, because something it says later on is that like the main storyline isn't in yet. So I don't know what that means, but it's probably something that I just would know if I actually watched the video. Anyway, new instance content. Now, this was actually really, really, really cool. These horrific visions. This is a very interesting concept, and we'll probably make a whole video on this in the future. But long story short, from what I've seen, I am very optimistic, because I like the idea of a solo challenge. So there's all kind of stuff on Wowhead about it if you haven't seen it. But basically, kind of like a raid level type. Apparently, it's going to be difficult. I don't know. Who knows? Obviously, nobody does right now. Well, maybe people have tested it already. But either way, it's going to be difficult content that you could either do as either 1 or up to 5 people. So you got you and your 4 alts. You can do it. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway. But yeah, the Stormwind and Orgrimmar thing, the pictures that I've seen are absolutely amazing looking. I can't wait to see that. And then there's these kind of like the lesser visions. So I don't really know what the point of them is. Like, I know that they give new essences, which are out there, but I don't know if they're going to be a gear reward system or if they're cosmetics or what. We don't, maybe people do know, but I don't know yet. And then alongside that, there's also going to be a Titan research tree, which apparently is still an early iteration, but you've seen some pictures on Wowhead already that looks kind of like a talent tree. Kind of makes me think of the Netherlight Crucible. It's it could be cool, but it's probably a little too limited, and I guess it's only for this content. So it really makes me wonder what this content's primary rewards and function. Like, is it going to exist in 9.0 stuff? Who knows? So, and also there's a legendary cloak, which apparently has a big part to do with both this and maybe eventually the raid. It mentioned ny'alotha specifically. But the thing that I wonder is how it's going to be acquired. Obviously, that's what everybody's wondering right now. But apparently it's there. I don't, it's available for testing, quote unquote. So we might have to check it out. But anyway, the idea of a legendary cloak, which obviously mirrors the mob idea, is interesting. It depends on why what it's there for and its purpose, and whether or not it's the exact same cloak, how it's tied into Wrathion. But I don't know. Armor's already a bit sparse, right? Like, I'm not really looking for new armor pieces, and I don't want to have any more occupied by mandatory slots. So I don't know. I was not happy with legendaries and Legion, this, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see what it does and what its purpose is. Anyway, heritage armor for goblins and worgans. If you haven't seen that, don't bother. They look terrible. Honestly, I'm very disappointed with the Goblin one, and I don't play a Worgen, but it's okay. I would probably, if I had a Worgen, I would get it and wear it. But the Goblin one looks ridiculous. I don't like it at all. But I guess that's a Goblin. I don't like Goblins, so let's put it that way. Anyway, Heroic Difficulty Darkshore Warfront, which is cool. I'm glad that they're still doing this. I didn't really do much heroic, whatever the other one, but it was cool. It was definitely better than the normal version, so I guess they might as well do it. What is a shame, though, seemingly no third Warfront, which a lot of people thought there was going to be, and there's just not going to be now at this point because obviously the faction war is over. So I guess that's kind of weird. It's almost like something was crossed up there, right? Why have Warfronts? I don't know. It seems like something was crossed up there. Anyway, Heart of Azeroth, new essences, additional minor slot, which I was definitely hoping for an additional major slot. I mean, they're putting all new essences in, and there's still only going to be one major slot. Not a big fan. Maybe that's going to change. 2 additional stamina nodes. I like stamina. Maximum level increase to 85 was 70. And this is the big one. Additional infinite progression slot to aid you against N'Zoth's corruption at max level. There you go. That's the one we're looking for. I don't know exactly what it means by N'Zoth's corruption. And maybe it's only for these, this content that we've been talking about here. But hopefully, I really don't like this. You get to 80 and then you don't, or whatever it is. You get to 70 and your neck doesn't function for whatever. I don't really like that. The purpose of the neck is that it's supposed to be something that you gradually improve over time. And when you get to the end point without, I don't even try. I literally don't even try. And I'm going to be 70 this week. So it's like, it would be nice if we didn't have to wait 3 more months or something, to do anything with it. Anyway, there's PvP. It's a Servant of N'Zoth event for slayers who become bounty hunted. So the only thing I could think of is that in whatever new zone or content there's going to be, if you are PvPing in that and you become the bounty and you become a whatever, like you function with war mode, you turn into some old god creature, something like that. Or maybe it's like, I don't know. It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see that. Now, there's this auction house major revamp. I'm not going to talk about that here today because, frankly, I don't use the auction house. But let's put it this way. It's probably the biggest change any actual core system of the game has ever received. They're making a dramatic change to how auction houses work. And it's a very good idea. I think I'm glad that they're doing it. I don't almost never use the auction house, so I really don't care. But I'm sure there's people out there who are going to be very excited about this. Class and essences we are going to read, though. In order to test much of the above, please look for Hard Zurasan vendors in Orgrimmar, blah, blah, blah. Testers will need to purchase the legendary cloak and coalescing visions from them in order to access horrific visions. Oh. So you have to have the legendary cloak, or maybe that's only for the PTR. I don't know. These vendors will also provide the first examples of corrupted items and essences. Huh. We might have to get on there and check that out. Because I think what they're talking about there was something that was brought up, and the internet's lit on fire now, about them removing Titan Forging. What I saw was that they have some new idea instead of Titan Forging. All I'm going to say right now is, well, besides I'm going to wait until I actually know what it is before I react to it. But all I'm going to say right now is I really like Titan Forging in its current iteration because it allows me to get gear from content that I like doing anyway. And it gives me another reason to play my DK. If it wasn't for Titan Forging, I wouldn't have no reason to be doing keys on my DK other than personal pride, and I'm just not like that. I'm not gonna do that. So I would just do them for fun, which I would still do. I still like 5-mans, but if they do remove the ability to farm Mythic Plus for gear, I'm probably just gonna do it a lot less. But anyway, we'll talk about that when it happens. I don't know what's even happening. Anyway, so some more things. Obviously, they also talked about a new allied race for both factions, Mechagenomes and Vulpera. This is literally just gnomes turned into robots, so who cares? Vulpera is the furry, so, if you're out there walking around in fox suits and stuff, I guess you'll be happy about this. A new raid, ny'alotha. Now this, if you guys haven't seen the pictures, oh, it's gorgeous. Unbelievable. I cannot wait to test that. I can't wait to see the raid. Apparently going to be 12 bosses as well, which is the largest raid we've had this expansion. One of the larger raids, on average. So it's going to be really nice. New story quest, Rise of N'Zoth. So that's going to be awesome. I cannot wait. I'm not a lore guy. I don't like the lore. I don't care. For 12 years, I literally never read a single quest. That's why when me and Copper leveling together, you see me marveling at story that's basic, right? This has my interest. I am literally watching and learning about lore because of ny'alotha, because of the old god stuff. I love it. This is probably the main thing everybody wants me to talk about. Season 4 PvP. Well, nobody cares about PvP, but Mythic Dungeon Keystone updates. So we're talking about a new affix. I do think it warrants its own video, and I obviously have a lot more to look at. So we're gonna wait before we talk about it. People are already saying things like, "Oh, it's just a great affix. It's gonna be awesome." But please, let's wait until we actually see it in game, have tested it, know how it works. I really have no problem with beguiling. For the record, everybody who's saying like they hate beguiling, they can't wait till it's gone. I really like beguiling. I think it's the best affix we've had so far. So anyway, Operation Mechagon has been divided into 2 wings, each with heroic and mythic keystone difficulty. So finally happening season 4. That is going to be an absolute nightmare. I can only imagine. Those 2 dungeon splits are going to be probably ridiculously hard out of the gate, and I'm not looking forward to my key being, we'll see what happens with that. Again, we'll test that when it comes out. New battle pets and battle dungeon, Black Rock Depths. I've never done the battle dungeons. I love Black Rock Depths, one of my favorite dungeons ever, but I don't know anything about pet battle dungeons, so maybe we'll try it. Dark Moon Arcade, play your favorite minigames at the Dark Moon Fair, no thanks. PvP Deepwind Gorge reimagined, updated to a capture point map. I'll definitely check that out. I've actually been doing a lot of Battlegrounds to level characters now recently with Party Sync, which I actually made a second account for. Anyway, yeah, really cool, but obviously Deepwind Gorge is higher level, so I don't really do it. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Profession updates. Yeah, these are not updates. This is just your normal stuff. New PvP catch-up gear for all crafting professions. Who cares? It's terrible gear. New upgrade level for alchemy stones. I care. Thanks a lot. New ny'alotha Vantis runes. No shit. Okay, so there's a video. We're obviously not watching that here. PTR now available. So let's take a look at the class changes. A lot of comments already. We might read some of them as well. Okay, so here, we're going to read this, okay. Developers note specs which excel at dots on multiple targets have, over the course of many tiers of content, generally had very high performance on the average. Their DPS advantage in raid encounters that play into their multi-target strength, which are relatively common, is not balanced by a comparable disadvantage in other areas. That's a great point. Well, that's not true. I wouldn't say that because in 5-mans, I do think that they're weak. But in raids, obviously, you're talking purely raids, totally agree. A small reduction in damage on these specs will leave them noticeably strong in situations in which they're strong, albeit slightly less than before, and give other specs more opportunity to stand out at other times. At the same time, a few of the essences added in Rise of Azhar are not performing as well as we would have liked, so we're increasing the effectiveness of some of the parts, blah, blah, blah. So, I am skeptical of this because dot classes are historically very bad in Mythic Plus. Usually, especially in basically on trash, they can be good, or really, really, really high keys, they can be good. But the keys I typically run, you don't want to bring dot classes. So I'm a little worried about balanced Druid, especially, but we'll see what happens because they're getting, I don't know, they're getting nerfed. Their Moonfire and Sunfire are being reduced by 10%. This is probably a bigger nerf to Resto Druid. I don't know if it's going to change to Resto Druid though. Oftentimes when it's a blanket nerf like this, it does apply to all 3 specs. But maybe because it says only balance, maybe, because this might also be a nerf to Guardian Druid too with the Moonfire change. So I don't really know. We'll find out, I guess. But at first glance, I do worry about Balanced Druid and Mythic Plus. They're already not great for 5-mans outside a single target. And, AoE is weak compared to some of the other ranged, pretty much compared to some of the other damage dealers. So, but they are buffing 2 of their traits, which just increase the damage of these things. So it's it's almost not even a nerf. We'll see how it plays out. Frost Mage, I had no idea this was the case. Apparently, people were ignoring Ice Lance and the Icicle spell. I never saw that. I didn't know that was happening, but I guess that's a good thing. I don't know why people would have done that in the first place. Now, this is the thing we want to talk about here. Brewmaster gutted. Unplayable. Get him out of here. Get the hell out. Brewmaster, switch back to Blood DK. No, I don't know, man. This is a pretty big change, though. Stamina bonus reduced at 30% was 35%. Already have the lowest health of any tank. That alone is probably a really big problem. Stagger percentage reduced to 90% of agility was 105%. We actually just talked about this on Wednesday's stream last Wednesday. People are telling me that the reason Brewmaster is so good right now is because they're getting to a point now where they're getting so much agility on their gear that Stagger is getting even stronger than it's supposed to be. High tolerance is part of that. Increases the effectiveness of Stagger by 5%. Used to be 8%. Brewmaster's extremely high effective health against physical damage meant they are rarely in danger against spike damage that threatens other tanks. And this is especially important in raids, but it's also important in 5-mans, of course. This should still be a strength of Brewmaster, but not by such a wide margin. So, of course, 3 major, I mean, these are major nerfs. I don't know what it's going to play as. I don't know if it's going to really hurt Brewmaster, but it'll be interesting to follow this. It really will be. Now, Mistweaver, they're changing a talent, which I don't know anything about, so I'm not even going to comment. The Life Cocoon changed, on the other hand. This is a very interesting change. Life Cocoon now absorbs 55% of the caster's maximum health, was 110% of the caster's spell power. Apparently, the ability has been getting weaker compared to the player's health pool since the start of the expansion, and this will help it maintain its value. It's terrible right now. Useless ability, almost not even worth the use. It's really just really bad. It almost like if somebody puts it on me in a 5-man, it goes away the second they put it on me. I never even noticed it on me. So hopefully this is a major buff because it doesn't need some adjustment. It needs a major buff. So we'll see what happens. Now this is interesting. Windwalker buffs, single target buffs. Rising Sun Kick damage increased by 25% and Blackout Kick damage increased by 10%, which that's a sizable buff for single target. And that's what they say here. These changes are intended to help Windwalkers perform better in single target fights. There you go, cop. Let's see how it goes. Because, Windwalkers actually really, I don't know. The Windwalkers I've played with this expansion, pretty good. They're doing pretty good here. Now, the Glimmer trait. Here we go. Let's talk about this. Capped at 8 targets. So not going to affect 5-mans at all, obviously, but raids. Over the past year, builds centered around this trait have been steadily pulling ahead of all of the Holy Pally playstyles, and to some extent, all other healers and high-end content. This change is meant to preserve the gameplay of the trait, but limit the ability to increase its value drastically by stacking every possible bonus that reduces Holy Shot cooldown, which obviously was probably going to get out of control by the time we're well into Season 4. So they needed to change this. I'm really glad they did, because otherwise I think they probably would have had to remove the trait. It's going to get to the point where literally you're going to be able to have it on every single player in the raid. I mean, maybe people are already getting to that point. I don't know. But yeah, that can't work. That would just be ridiculous. You'd literally be able to just solo heal every fight if that was the case. So it's fine. I don't do raids on my Paladin anymore, but I am glad to see that they're not removing the trait and that this is their way of nerfing it, and hopefully it works out well, and hopefully people understand why they needed to do this, because obviously it's frankly untenable how strong it was compared to most traits out there, and it could have been a lot worse. So anyway, Dix Priest, big nerfs to them. Well, sort of. Atonement healing reduced to 50%, was 55%. That means of the damage you do, 50% of that is going to transfer to healing. On the people with atonement, used to be 55%. So luckily they're not nerfing the damage, seemingly. Again, we'll talk about that in a second. But they're also a big buff to the Grace Mastery, which is actually, I really like that Mastery. I think that works really well with how Discipline works. But ability to contribute both damage and healing is slightly too high for what one character can bring to a group composition. At the same time, we're making their Mastery stat slightly more attractive. So we'll see how that goes. It seems like they're gradually trying to turn them into more of a standstill healer instead of an actual DPS. We'll see how it goes. I haven't played Dix. I've been leveling Dix now that I got the Party Sync account going. I got a character set up in WoD. We're just going to literally do the bonus objectives and get like 2 levels every day. But anyway, Shadow is also getting changes. I don't play Shadow, but it seems like they're nerfing the dot classes, which is not surprising at all, like we talked about earlier. And it's really, I think it's needed. And it makes me think there's going to be a lot of multi-target fights in this raid, and it's totally understandable, right? Because old god fights are always multi-target. Think about every old god fight you've done. There's always a lot of targets. That's always seems to be how it's going. So not really surprising whatsoever. Now here we go. We're talking about this. Shadow Word pain damage reduced by 8%. So again, is this a nerf to Dix Priest? I don't know. Does anybody? Maybe if you're from the future, or if you're like a prophet, you're Medivh. I don't know. If that's also a nerf, I don't think Dix needs a nerf. Let's put it this way. This is why I'm talking about this. They don't need a nerf. Maybe I'm missing something in raids. I guess they could be really strong, but in 5-mans they're struggling. And I don't know. We'll see what happens, I guess. Anyway, Warlock, kind of don't really care, but this is actually a big deal, honestly. Affliction, I feel like when I read this, I was thinking, this is going to cause a lot of arguments, because Affliction they're kind of not very good right now. Let's put it that way. They can do really good single targets, and their AoE, you have to really sell out to do well, but you can do well. But nerfing their burst, it's like, okay, so that was pretty much the only thing holding them together, right? It was like, okay, you knew they were going to do great burst single target. It's not that big of a nerf, realistically, but it's kind of like one of those things that when you see this, I guarantee you there's, well, maybe not yet, but I guarantee you there's somebody in this thread at some point quoting this and be like, wow, nerf the worst spec of Warlock even more, or like, how out of touch are you? You know, some nonsense like that. So anyway, let's talk about essences. World Vein Resonance is a good one for us. Major Mark 1 or Major Rank 1, when used, now additionally causes you to gain 50% bonus from stats to Lifeblood Shard. So this was one of the things. Historically, we had a big argument about the DK, the Discord, the Blood DK Discord telling me that this was just mandatory trait, that it was going to be best in slot for every scenario. And I obviously disagreed, still do. I don't know if they would still ever, hopefully they would not still advocate for that. Obviously, the essence just doesn't work very well. It's very complicated to use in 5-mans and even in raids. I rarely have high uptime on it with multiple people using it. So this is a nice change. It makes you actually want to use the major. That's my main point, is there's so many good miners out there. If you're going to use a good essence, you probably should, it also should have a good major. That one didn't. Anyway, Vision of Perfection. I'm really excited about that, man. Proc rate increased by 12%. Now, don't forget, it scales with your heart level, your neck level. It scales. It's going to get really big. It's going to get really big, I think. So I don't know exactly what the base is, but mine at 70 is already, 28% or something reduction? I can't remember exactly, but, oh, wait, no, I'm an idiot. The proc rate is what they're talking about here, which is actually, that's probably better. I thought they were talking about the duration that it removed, but either way, both are going to, improve over time here. And of course, the proc rate on Vamp Blood being higher is going to be really nice. I do wish it wasn't Vamp Blood, of course. I wish it was either Bone Storm or Dancing Rune Weapon, like everybody else's. But hey, you know what? We got Vamp Blood with liking Vamp Blood. So it actually works out pretty well for 5-mans. Unbound Force, I don't even know what that is. Let me just look it up real quick. I don't actually know what it is. Unbound Force is oh yeah, this is, I don't have this. This is a DPS essence, I guess. Must be. I have no idea what it's from. So anyway, we're not even going to read that. Purification Protocol, though. This is the one that caught my eye when I was reading it. 15% damage increase. That's a pretty big DPS increase for something on a 1-minute CD. I really, really, really like Purification Protocol. I would use it all the time, honestly, and I really do like using it on when I do play my DK as Frost occasionally. But it's just really nice. I think it's perfect for 5-mans because it can kill a mob. And sometimes, this famous moment where Jix called, there was a 5 million health robot in Motherload 17, and he's like, "Watch me one-shot this," and he did. And that was just such a huge swing. I mean, that just saved us a whole minute or something like that, right? So pretty cool. And then I don't know what this means. Major rank 2 now has the potential to work on targets that are part of raids and dungeon encounter. I have to believe, I'm pretty sure that means you can now one-shot targets on raid and dungeons encounter, meaning like bosses and dungeons. Because this is why I'm confused, right? It obviously already does that. If they're talking about the one-shot, it already does that in 5-mans, but maybe they're talking about bosses in 5-mans, and this also means that in raids it could work. So imagine a scenario. You're fighting Ny'alotha. He's summoning like 6,000 mobs. I mean, there's one mob, he's got about 4.2 million health. I mean, more than a blood DK, right? He just gets deleted. You know what I mean? That would be so freaking cool. I love this essence. Probably my favorite essence in the game, despite the fact that I almost never play Damage Dealer. And Vitality Conduit, rebuilding the way the essence work. It should also be visually more impactful, and now you'll see healing on your targets. That's cool. I'm a blood DK. I don't need you to heal me. So anyway, that's that. Let's see some of the comments. So Windwalker is just going to run people over in PvP. Nobody cares about PvP, dude. No single target DPS compensation for Shadow Priest AoE nerfs. You guys always seem to forget about that. No, I don't think so. Shadow currently gets 13 to 15k DPS from its 6 specific Azerite trait setup in single target. Most other specs are barely getting more than 5 to 6k. That's cool. I don't play Shadow Priest. But I don't know. There's probably some comments in here. Does somebody up there really dislike Dix Priest? Or Priest, maybe, in general. I mean, to be fair, yeah, they could use a small nerf. Shadow is actually performing very well on single target right now. One of the top 5 for pure single target. So these people are all talking about Priest. Where's all the blood DK posts, huh? Come on, man. This guy's Blood DK. I don't want to cry over things that aren't set yet, but you guys are nerfing the dot classes that exceed at multi-targeting, nerfing the fight with a lot of enemies, but at the same time aren't buffing the single target abilities of this class. Right. I don't understand why this. So this is the confusing part, right? Why are you guys talking about this? You think Shadow Priest does bad single target? I don't. They don't. Do you think Bombkin does bad single target? No. False. It's just the dots. When you got 6 targets, you can put Moonfire, Sunfire, Footfire. You can put all those things, all these dots they got. It's overpowered. And I definitely think the main thing is going to be, there's going to be a lot of targets in this new raid. There always is with with old god stuff. So, hi, good seeing some changes. Just want some clarification on the Rising Mist change. Well, I can't help you with that. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys tomorrow on the live stream. I just want to put this out there so you guys know what's happening. But yeah, my hype level is very high. I'm very, very, very excited for this patch. Hope you guys are too. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.